Hey, good Thursday morning, everybody. Eric Kane, Brent Hubbs, Rob Lewis, and Austin Price. This is the Volquest Mailbag Podcast, presented as always by Exterior Home Solutions. If you need roofing, siding, windows, a garage, contact Exterior Home Solutions today. They've been locally owned, or they've been local and trusted since 1999. A free estimate, 865-524-5888, or online at exteriorhomesolutions.com. Got a whole lot of questions to get into today, but Brent Hubbs, I do want to say we got a big game this week, a big sale on the site this week, 50% off your annual subscription for your first year at Volquest.com. No better time to join the site than right now.
Absolutely. There'll be plenty of reaction this weekend. There'll be plenty of discussion leading up to this weekend, tons of content from us, interaction on the message board, great conversation taking place. The game day thread, the game thread alone is worth the price of admission at half price for an annual subscription. So be sure and check us out. I promise you won't be disappointed. Half price is a great deal. And again, you won't be disappointed by what you get at Volquest.com. So be sure and check us out.
That's right. Join us, and you can help me find the missing 12 minutes of a football game
Yes.
at Volquest.com.
Yes, it's the scavenger hunt for Austin's 12 minutes.
I'm not that old. I'm not old enough.
You gotta be able to laugh at yourself, man.
Absolutely. 100%.
All right, let's go. Let's start things off with Gulf Coast Vol. Can you remember a time when the Vols offense looked so out of sync, like the Vols this year, but went on to have a really good offense and offensive chemistry? Basically, what are the odds that this offense gets back on track versus what it looks like with the struggle bus on that side of the football against Austin Peay and a little bit against Virginia?
I mean, it's hard to compare. I mean, the offenses are so different. I mean, has there been times where, you know, Tennessee didn't run the football particularly well and they got it going? Sure. I mean, I guess the most logical comparison to everybody, Austin and Rob, is probably the Jonathan Crompton, Lane Kiffin year, right? I mean, that was that offense against UCLA was dreadful. I mean, it was bad.
What was the final score of that game? I want to say it was 3-2, but I don't think it was.
It wasn't hardly bad.
No, that was Mississippi State Auburn, which was like
it was like
years ago.
I mean, it was like 13-10 or 10-7 or something crazy like that. And everybody was like, you know, quarterback play was so bad. And then they go and play Georgia and they start rolling Crompton out, and all of a sudden he throws for 300 yards. And Lane Kiffin predicted a win during the week because he said Georgia was easy to go against, and they were easy to defend, and he would never lose to Mark Richt and all this other stuff privately. Tell that story now. Statute of limitations are passed, but that's probably the last time, right? I mean, you saw a real transformation for an entire year. I mean, you had the one moment Pruitt's year where that year with Pruitt where Jerry goes to Auburn and throws for 300 yards, and you think he's figured it out, and then all of a sudden it didn't go that direction. After that,
in hindsight, you realize he was throwing to 2 NFL receivers in hindsight.
Yeah, yeah, 3. That was a one game anomaly. The Crompton thing, once it clicked for him at Georgia, they were a total different offense down the rest of the stretch of the season for that team.
Yeah, I mean, like we're to a point where we're comparing eras where they were bad on offense, and I know you're talking about just a couple of games, but I mean, you look at even the last like 6-7 years, like where they were at under Jeremy, where they were at that last year under Butch. I mean, this team, I know it's Virginia and Austin Peay, but they're still averaging basically 40 a game. I mean, we've seen bad boys. Like this may be a headache. This may be like mind numbing at times with the 3 and outs, but it's not what we've seen.
No question.
It's mind-numbing because everybody's so used to scoring 50 a game.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that there aren't some issues and that they need to figure it out, but it's just we're kind of spoiled.
I want to prove – I've thought about this a lot this week. I want to make a point, and I want to see if where we're at in 2 weeks, and we'll revisit this. Remember last year when early in the season it was Jalen Wright with fumble, and everybody kept talking about how he couldn't hold on to the ball. We got to get him out of there and all this stuff. And then what happened? Like he settled down because why? He missed most of fall camp. Most of these receivers missed a lot of time in fall camp. Could this be similar to that? That they need to get a couple of games in to get their feet wet a little bit. You know, I don't know. We'll see. Again, I'm interested to see where they're at in 2 weeks. Are they catching the ball better in 2 weeks? Is Joe's accuracy just a fraction better through the next 2 weeks? I know he didn't miss time, but the receivers did, at points in time. So I want to know what they look like in 2 weeks.
Well, kind of on that, Austin. Again, we're not out there the whole time. We don't see everything, so I'm not trying to act like we do. But I know those receivers didn't play in the scrimmages. But man, they were out there a lot in practice, and they're catching balls from Milton and Nico, and I mean they're doing 11 on 11. It's not like they didn't practice for a month; they just didn't scrimmage, right? I mean, they still got plenty of work.
There were practices they missed. There were plenty of practices they missed. Now, yeah, they did do scrimmage work in regular practice,
yeah,
and didn't do it in like the actual fall camp scrimmages.
But like Jalen Wright didn't have contact for a month, essentially, right? I mean.
That's correct. I mean,
last year
it's a little bit apples to oranges, but to me, it can be maybe it's oranges to tangerines. Like, I mean, or if I really want to keep going down the rabbit hole of blunders, I can just start throwing out bananas and strawberries. But the point is like I just wonder, does the time missed collectively cause them to be off? I don't know. Maybe that's a crazy theory. Maybe in 2 weeks they're still dropping balls and Joe's still marginally accurate or inaccurate. I want to see them in 2 weeks.
Another one here from Gulf Coast Vol. Rob, any tips for fans traveling down to Gainesville this year?
Keep your head on a swivel. People, keep your head on a swivel is my tip.
Yeah,
no Boston Johnnies or anything.
No, I mean it's not as rowdy as it once was. I don't think. But yeah, I mean they'll be ready to go Saturday night. It's not like you're going in and you're going out to a nice non-conference venue where everybody says, "Hey, how you doing?" and super polite and all those things. It won't be anything like that. So yeah, swivel.
I mean, Hubbard and AP, I don't know if you guys what your experiences have been, but they dress better. But Georgia fans are way worse, in my opinion. I've never seen. I mean, as far as like visiting fans.
Rough.
Yeah. Well, and Georgia right now is. I mean, they're hot. I mean, they're better.
I'm talking about 30 years ago when they weren't hot. It's still bad. I've never seen cups of urine thrown on opposing fans at Florida.
This is true. After the 2004 game, when I was a student,
I've seen that at Athens.
My college roommate and I, we rolled right down the main drag there on campus. And I was hanging out the window, having a little bit of fun. And
Aaron Hernandez shot you?
And they started chucking like produce. It was like cabbage and lettuce and all kinds of stuff at the car. So, I'm with Rob to a degree. I don't think the only time I've ever noticed Florida being bad is when you're on the sidelines. And there's a pathway behind the bench that's about this wide, and you have to go in between and it's really the students. So like these people will screw with you all night long. So you just kind of have to keep your head down, not engage and get to the other side of the field. But that's really the only time I've ever dealt with anything in Florida.
Let's go to Sam Smith, 2233. How would you script the first 10 to 15 plays to get Joe going on Saturday?
Hubs has got his theories, Hubs. Go for it, baby.
There's two ways to do this, in my opinion. One, run quarterback draw early and let him get hit, and just kind of settle that way. Just let him get physical, let him get hit, and see, settle into the game that way. The other theory is he's going to have a bunch of people in the stands. He's going to be amped up. He'll do 4 backflips and warm-ups or whatever it is that he does. So just let him drop back and throw one about 75 yards, on a takeoff and just heave it and get it out of his system that way. I think your biggest concern with Joe is just Joe pressing for 2 reasons. One, he didn't play well last week. Okay, now maybe I know he said it's not how you start, it's how you finish, blah, 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 blah. Joe knows he didn't play well. Right? Joe watched the tape. Joe's heard it. Joe knows what people are saying. Joe's people know what people are saying. The concern you got with Joe is, one, he's going to press because of that, and 2, he's going to press because it's home. I mean, that's as close to home as he's going to play, right? Now, he played Miami, and he played well, but, playing in Florida is a big deal for Joe. And so I think you've got to do whichever way calms him is where I go. If that means he needs to get hit, then that's the call. That's the play call I'm doing. If he needs to throw one as far as he can and get settled that way, then I'm heaving it. I don't know his personality well enough to do that, but I don't know that my first route's going to be a 15-yard square in, right? Or a 20-yard over route to the tight end. I think that I'm going to let him just get it out of his system because it's going to come out fast and hot, or I'm going to let him get hit. That's my theory.
But you play number one speed option to the wide side of the field. He'll get hit on that play.
I was going to say, as a head coach, though, I mean, Hubbard, wouldn't you feel pretty confident that Josh knows, what Joe needs?
Mm-hmm.
Or, which one of those, what fits him well in those first, 10, 15 plays. I mean, I have a high degree of confidence that Josh, has his finger on the pulse and those kind of things.
Well, and part of it, I mean, what's Florida going to do? Is Florida going to come out and dare Tennessee and Joe to throw it? Are they more worried about the run game? Are they more worried about Tennessee throwing it over their head early? For their team, what are they more concerned about? What happened to them in the Utah game, right? I mean, shell shock. They gave up a touchdown on the first play from scrimmage, and they were kind of behind the 8 ball the rest of the night. So what are they most concerned about in terms of how they defend Tennessee? And then what does Tennessee do? I mean, Tennessee last week came out with one clear mission. If you look at the play calling, AP, it was to get the passing game going in the vertical space, right? They didn't throw the sideline stuff. It was downfield to get the passing game in rhythm. After 8 attempts, when Joe was 1 for 7 with a completion to Small on a swing pass or a screen pass, they said, you know what? We're just going to go laterally. And they stayed lateral until late in the second half when they threw another square into Brew McCoy. So they tried to get it going last week. I don't know that that's the approach this week is, hey, we're going to throw those routes to try to get him going that way. I think that, you do whatever you feel like is best for him to get settled. And I'm not sure throwing those routes to start the game are the best way to get him settled.
Another one here from Sam Smith. Defensively, how do you defend Florida? Do you send pressure, try to make Graham Mertz move and be uncomfortable, or sit back and trust your 4 to get home?
I think he makes it. I mean, I think you got to be multiple in this deal. Depends on situation, depends on down and distance. I think you're trying to do different things. I don't think Tim Banks has showed his hand, AP, and all of his stuff at this point. So I think you're trying to. I don't think Graham Mertz likes to get hit. Most quarterbacks don't. I think you're trying to get to him and get him uncomfortable in the pocket as quick as you can.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would do. I would, the more pressure, the better chance that you force them into a mistake. And I'm not sure Florida's skill guys on the outside, or what they've had in the past. And so, I'm not sure it's, okay, if we bring pressure and we don't get home, this is 65 yards the other direction. So I do mix it. And again, I use, Beasley and Pierce and, to me, those are the guys that are right now playing the best football defensively, and I use them a lot.
Well, here's the other thing, too. Go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry.
I was going to say I'm not shy about getting after – sending pressure. Pearsall is a good player, but, they don't – Reed L. Anthony's not walking through that door for Florida.
They're going to work Eugene Wilson III into the game plan, I think.
If I'm Tennessee, I'm not Florida, Graham Mertz, Ricky Pearsall. The skill, they don't scare me as far as, what's the negative about, coming after them, especially with how effective Tennessee's been at getting after the passer in 2 weeks.
Here's the other thing, too, Eric. One thing that Tennessee's not done, they blitzed, I think, 3 times last week. They also haven't played a ton of games up front. Remember, go back to that LSU game. A lot of stunts, a lot of twists. They did a lot of different things. That's why I'm saying there's some stuff that Tim Banks hasn't shown yet. They pretty much played it straight up in their pass rush situations, with the exception of, 2, 3, 4 blitzes, something like that in 2 games. So I think he can dial some stuff up and test that Florida offensive line and test Graham Mertz pretty early.
You've seen a couple of blitzes from Beasley, from the third layer.
Yeah. Wesley Walker got home last week.
Walker, yeah. But, to your point, the up front, go back and look at James Pierce's sacks. That's been all James Pierce. Go and look at Tyler Barron. A couple of them against Virginia. He just let the guys get upfield. They stepped up. He was there to clean it up. So how many of those games do we see up front? I think it'll be intriguing. DBD88 says, how do you think the offensive line will hold up against Florida's front 7? Any reason for concern that the offensive line is part of the reason we haven't seen the vertical gain that we expected to the past 2 games? Austin.
I think they'll hold up fine because of the scheme. Are they going to not allow a sack all night? I don't believe that. But, I think the biggest thing is like when, the running backs have to help in pass pro, that they missed some, a couple of assignments last week. Tight ends have to continue to help in pass pro. And if they're able to do that, I think they'll hold up just fine. And again, give Joe enough time to have time to deliver a pass.
They dialed up. I think they were trying to dial up a couple of deep shots last week against Austin Peay, and it didn't happen against pressure, and it didn't happen because the offensive line didn't hold up. I'm sure Florida will test. They like to bring pressure. Communication is going to be a key across the front with those 5 guys. And as Austin mentioned, you're also going to have to communicate well with your backs to pick up run blitzes. I don't know that they're going to be able to leak out in the flat like they did against Virginia, because I think Florida is going to bring some pressure from different places. I think Florida will be aggressive in this game defensively.
Doolittle Ball says if Tennessee's defense continues to perform well this year, will Tim Banks be in consideration for a head coaching gig at the end of the year, Rob?
Yeah, I think so.
I could see that. I mean, not a lateral move to a Power 5 team at this level, but sure. I mean, I could see that. And I think Hubbs has been on this for a little while. I mean, I think he's kind of been an undersung, part of Tennessee's success the past couple of years. I mean, the offense gets all the hype, but for what he's had to work with, I mean, I think Tim Banks has done a nice job here in Knoxville.
Was that pun intended, Rob?
I was going to say no pun intended, right?
No pun intended.
I think that Tim Banks his name will pop up for some jobs for sure. I think Tim Banks is going to be selective. He makes really good money here. I don't think he wants to go into a situation where he doesn't feel like he can win. Because how many shots do you get to be a head coach if you fail on your first attempt? So I think Tim Banks is a smart individual who does have goals and ambitions to be a head coach, but I don't think he's going to walk into a situation that's not a winning situation, because he doesn't want to be. He's not going to take a job just to take a job. Is what I'm trying to say.
So Hubbard, you're saying he's going to be surgical like Tony Elliott and wait for a UVA type plum to come along.
No, I think he's going to take a job where he thinks he can win, and I think he's still going to be patient. I think Tony Elliott decided that year he was taking a job, period, for whatever reason, and he took a job that is not going to work out for him.
No, I'm with you. I think Coach Banks is a sharp guy.
Let's go to CN31. After 2 games, I feel like the following needs to get, I feel like the following are the ones that need to get the primary touches every single game. Jalen Wright, Colin McKay, combine the 2 words. I do that all the time too. McCallan Castles, not McCastles. McCallan Castles, McCoy, and Squirrel. If they're not touching the ball several times a game, I think there's an issue. Anybody else left out from that group of guys?
Who else has been targeted in the game?
Keaton.
Okay. I mean, that's Joe's favorite guy. Joe's got the best chemistry with Ramel Keaton. He's going to get his targets. But, I mean, that's it. I guess what you're saying is you're saying Jabari Small shouldn't be on the field very much. It should be Jalen Wright. I think Jalen Wright should get more carries than any other running back. I don't disagree with that. But, I mean, those are the weapons. I mean, Chaz Nimrod's not playing. Right now, do you have any belief that Dante Thornton's going to be a factor? I mean, with what we've seen in 2 games, I mean, I felt like AP that they shrunk that rotation back to 3 is what it felt like to me. And midway through the second quarter of the Austin Peay game till the end. Am I wrong? I mean, because it felt like that receiver rotation, there was no rotation at that point.
There wasn't. We'll see if it morphs back or if it stays kind of, what we saw at the end of the Austin Peay game. But, I mean, there's not that many people to really target. I mean, if Jalen Wright's not getting 20 touches in this game, something's wrong.
I agree.
11 catches for the running backs so far this year in 2 games. I feel like that's considerably, higher up than what it's been, last year and the year before that. So it's something to pay attention to. And they motion him out and throw the screen game to him as well. We saw that a couple of times the first 2 games. Let's go recruiting question. Vol_Nation. Should we be worried about Cam Michael and Boo visiting Colorado? Michael last week, of course, Boo this week. And who will be pushing the hardest with now Chris Cole and Danny Okoye likely heading elsewhere?
Well, I mean, anytime a kid you're recruiting or have committed is going to take a visit. I mean, yeah, that's worrisome, right? I mean, like Cam Michael's not in the boat, hasn't been close to being in the boat, even though you feel like, from an offensive standpoint, and him wanting to play offense, what you do makes a lot of sense. As for Boo, there are some things that just line up, he sticks with Tennessee for me. But anytime you're taking a visit, you have to worry about that. And you have to be very cognizant that, that Boo could end up elsewhere. So, I think this is, I wouldn't, on the worrisome meter, I'm not making it a 10, but, I wouldn't call it a 0 either.
Let's stay on recruiting here. Brent, we'll go to you. VFL 1995 says, do you expect the staff to recruit the state of Florida better given all the ties? Surprised they have been more involved in the state. Do you feel like the staff could ever use their ties to recruit the state consistently, or would the staff continue to cherry pick every few years? Yeah, I think I heard you mention something like this on the radio the other day. There's the big three in Florida, and then it's like, well, if you make it out of Florida, then why? What's that scenario like? But this staff does have ties in the state of Florida.
They do, but they're gonna recruit to those ties, and they're gonna cherry pick. I mean, they're not gonna go set up shop and to borrow Paul Fortenberry's line, the I-4 corridor down there in Orlando, where Tennessee has been at. They're not going to line up and just live in that world. So I think that they're going to recruit Florida, but they're going to spot recruit it. One of the questions we have about Florida is Florida kids is why are they leaving the state? And you got to do your due diligence and your research. Did Florida State, Miami not want them at all? Are you beating them out head up for a guy? I mean, there's just a lot of factors that go into play. It's the same way with Texas kids. I think you go spot recruit that. I don't think those are two states that you go blanket recruit because they're not close, not super close. Obviously, Florida's closer than Texas, but it's different level of competition in there for what you're recruiting because you've got big name schools in that state. In the state of Georgia, you got one big name school. No offense, Georgia Tech. Now, you got everybody else coming in trying to grab it, but you're beating out one school. I mean, Florida State's rolling. Miami's going. Florida. I mean, it's hard to go down there and just straight up beat those guys out for kids.
Heck,
UCF. There you go, AP. I'm with you.
Yep. Exactly right. Central Florida.
If you go, Tennessee's got some players, but if you go back, 20, 30 years, who have they really gotten that's a great player out of Florida? And they recruited all the time. Kurt Magid was a good player. You go back even further, Alvin Harper from Frostproof.
Yeah.
Florida,
they took Travis Henry because nobody in the state of Florida wanted Travis Henry. They beat out BYU for Travis Henry.
Ooh,
sample that one.
I'm
biting
my tongue on polygamy jokes.
There's a lot of kids, in the state of Florida who, that Tennessee took that the big three didn't want, and they didn't. A good number of them didn't pan out. Others did. People will say Josh Palmer. He's from Canada. He's not originally from Florida. There's just all kinds of variables there. You go recruit the state, but I don't think you're going to look up and say, hey, they've signed 12 from Florida. I don't think Tennessee's ever going to do that in recruiting, AP.
No, in reality, what you have to do is you have to go find like that Dylan Sampson, who's kind of that undersized back, who's kind of like a little jitterbug that maybe LSU didn't want because, they just felt like he was a dime a dozen, but he's still a really good athlete. You've got to go find that guy in the state of Florida. Tennessee's got to continue to recruit Virginia well, North Carolina, Georgia. Obviously, that's never going to change. But you can't live in Florida and you can't live in Texas. That's pretty well proven. Again, that's not to say you can't get a player or two, but if you're living in those areas, that's a recipe for.
Hubbard just mentioned the three big schools. How many schools are in Texas? Now that they're moving into the conference.
You
got two SEC schools now. Then you got
SMU's going to the ACC.
Rice, Baylor.
Baylor.
It's hard, but you're talking about Dylan Sampson and getting a quote or an undersized diamond in the rough. You had to beat out one Power 5 school for that.
Yeah,
To find a diamond in the rough in Florida, you're going to assume that Florida State, Miami, Florida, Central Florida ignored them, didn't find them.
Yeah,
it's hard in this day and age, man. That's just a different. It's different that way. I'm not saying you don't go recruit it, but you're not going to go down there and make a big time living in that state, and that be the bulk of your class.
We got plenty more questions we're going to get into, but first, let's get a word from our proud sponsors, Exterior Home Solutions.
Life happens. and damage to your home can be extremely stressful. That's why it's important to find someone who offers efficient, quality work with financing options. Exterior Home Solutions, they value not only family, but community. And they're who I call when life happens, and you should too.
Said it better myself.
I just couldn't wait, AP. We're going to see it a ton tonight. I just couldn't wait. I had to.
Hey, AP, I don't even need any roof work, but when you point at me, I reach for the phone. When you point
As
at me,
you should.
No.
Call Dustin and Jeff today.
Absolutely.
All right, let's stay with AP here. What comes first? We'll go to Vol Dogs 12. What comes first, another Tennessee commit or Christmas decorations going up in the Price household?
It's actually a good question.
That's
It
a
is.
Great question.
It is a good
It's
question.
a great question for September.
Man, I'm trying to think here. At this point in time, I think it's going to be Christmas decorations.
All right, so here's my question, AP. Will Christmas decorations be up by fall break in the Price house?
No, they won't be up the first part of October.
Okay, but they'll be up before Halloween.
They normally are. They normally are. When
Before?
kids come here to trick or treat, there's a Christmas tree in the background.
AP, will you have your Christmas tree up before you have your next phone call with Mel Tucker?
It is funny. It is too much stuff to put up for 30.
Oh my goodness!
And
AP gives out Christmas tree Little Debbie cakes for Halloween.
nah, dude, it's gonna be I gotta get the early look on the Christmas tree Reese's.
I was going to say, everybody talks about the Easter egg Reese's, but the Christmas tree Reese's, AP gets an early stock, gives them out for Halloween.
Well, no, I mean, like, I'm gonna ask the three of you all. This is my question for the podcast. By Austin_Price. Best Halloween or holiday themed Reese's. Which one is it?
I don't like peanut butter, so I'm out.
I don't either, but it has to be the Easter egg, isn't it?
It's got to be the egg.
It is the egg. I agree. There's more peanut butter in it. The best thing.
Do they make a pumpkin, AP?
They do. They do pumpkins. That's actually the first one.
Didn't even know that they made a pumpkin.
Then they go to hearts, and then they go to eggs.
I'd go with the egg.
They do hearts. I've seen the hearts before. I don't know, something about the theme of the holiday just makes it better.
It's called fresh peanut butter.
It's like fresh grease for French fries, Eric Kane. Here we go. Next question. Here we go. Back on the road.
Game changer, right, AP?
It's a huge game changer.
All right, let's go. Roltney for life. What is the percentage that Cooper Mays is back this weekend? And if you don't want to do this weekend, what about UTSA next week?
Hubs has already gave his percentage. Go for it, Hubs.
I did.
You said
60. You said 64.
60-40. I'm at 60-40. We'll see. I mean, I don't.
You told me you wasn't going to play. You're like at 12.
I mean,
you're all over the map.
I'm like Eric, average. Just put it at 5.
Still surprised the sun came up today, AP.
He is so Hubs is so bent over my scale the other night. He's so taken aback by it.
I mean that's just math. I mean, it's bad math.
Well, I never said I was good at math.
No, bad math is 48 minutes in a football game.
That is.
Maybe that was just confusion. Again, too many high school games, man. I look at that clock going 12 more minutes. I got to listen to Packer talk, and you know, I mean, like I just, you know.
I said this on the 2-minute drill. Normally, we kind of chuckle at Josh Heupel's. Well, we'll find out on Friday.
Yep.
You know, we'll see on Friday when you already know the answer, right? I mean, it's okay. I think this one's legit. I think this one is you're not going to know until Friday evening, Saturday morning. I really do. I think
he's going on the trip.
I agree. I think he's going to go on the trip. I think this is the one time where when Josh Heupel says we'll know more on Friday, he's being truthful. They'll know more on Friday on this one because I think each day is a true evaluation because it's how does it feel? How does he respond? You know, how does the body feel? Where does he think he's at? Where do the doctors think he's at? All those things are going to be up until Saturday day that's being discussed. My guess is Ollie Lane starts at center, but if they struggle a little bit, I could certainly see Cooper getting in there early. If Cooper plays, he's not going to play the whole game. They will continue to rotate at the center position because I don't think he's going to be in enough game shape to play an entire game, even if he were to start it.
So that percentage would go up for UTSA significantly, right, AP?
Yes, I think he's back in full for UTSA.
No. But if that's his
can't
first
you just
action.
Can't you just go down to the basement and ask him?
Hold on.
Let's go to Greg One Vols. I would love to see Jalen Wright, get 25 to 30 carries this week. Old school football. Will we ever see it back in Josh Heupel's offense get that many carries? The answer simply is no, right, guys?
Not unless there's some injuries, I wouldn't think. What do you guys?
Not at the pace that they play at. Yeah. I mean, look at the number of. I mean, we've seen running backs tap out because of fatigue, because of the pace that they're playing at in a drive. You know, so no, I don't think you're going to see them give. They're not going to give the running back 35 carries in a game. It's just not. I don't see that happening.
Volume shooter, like the handle here. What will be the biggest storyline on Monday if the Vols win? On the flip side, what would have to happen for the Gators to win and keep that streak alive?
Well, I mean, if Florida's going to win, in my opinion, that Tennessee's passing game remains off bubble. It remains off center and doesn't get going with the passing game. And Tennessee probably has turned the football over and not played a very clean football game. If Tennessee wins, the storyline is going to be Joe Milton got his signature win. I think. I mean, because I don't think Tennessee wins with Joe Milton having a bad day and they win in spite of him. I think Tennessee wins if Joe Milton plays, solid to above that, and that would be a quote signature win. No offense to the Clemson Bowl win, but that would be a different type of signature win because you're winning on the road in the SEC, and AP, you set the course for the possibility of an unbeaten team in Knoxville with A&M and South Carolina being in town, right?
Yeah, I mean that's right. And again, last year was the capper on the season. The hay was in the barn. That was, if you win, great. If not, it's been a heck of a run, and you made the Orange Bowl, and you didn't have Hendon. This is Joe's team, and so to me, I agree with Hubbs. I think this is it sets the stage for you're not going to lose to UTSA, and I don't think they're losing to South Carolina. So I think you're setting the real good chance that you go into the bye week undefeated if you can win this game Saturday. Whereas if you don't win it, it brings South Carolina more into doubt and so on and so forth.
Nashville TN Hub says, how many portal guys do you think Tennessee will take? Did a rough estimate, looks like 10 to 12 plus. Keep in mind Tennessee took 8 last year.
Well, I mean, I think that's a hard number to come to say because you don't know who's going to be here and who's not going to be here at this point. You're also going to stay under 85. I mean, you're going to be hovering around 81, 82, somewhere in there with your scholarship deals. So, that could, you got to be careful with your numbers in January, because the way numbers count, because you got to stay under that number. There'll be some guys leave the program. I mean, I would say what, AP, 6 to 10, 8 to 10.
What do they have? 20? They have 20 high school kids committed right now?
19, I think.
19.
I mean, they got a massive freshman class and then a massive senior class, and then in between's not that much. So, yeah, I mean, I think somewhere between 7 and 11.
You didn't like my 6 to 10?
I just wanted to add one more to each side. It's going to be different. What were you beating on over there, Eric? I mean, I heard you type out and type louder.
Typing. I didn't beat the mic.
You type like Craig Price, one finger.
No, I don't do that. I'm having to add to this list because we're going through them all. Stump jumper. What's Florida's total rushing yard's going to be on Saturday versus the Vols total rushing
62.
yards?
I'll take the over, but not by much.
Well, he didn't give a number.
You got to factor it. No, man, we're playing the Price is Right. I'm taking 63 in the over. How's that?
I'll take 64.
Well, they had 13 against Utah, but how much of that was because of? I mean, they gave
25. I always forget is it Montrell Johnson or whatever? He had 25. ETN had like 9.
Yeah,
I mean it was bad.
They don't know.
And Mertz lost like 45, 46 yards in sacks.
Yeah. So they had some, but it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't a lot.
It wasn't good, even with the sack yardage.
No, it wasn't. Now they get their center back this week. We'll see how much better they are on the offensive line in week 3. They were not very good up front in week 1, so we'll see how their offensive line plays. They obviously feel like they found a little something, even though they're playing McNeese. They had 117 yards in the first quarter and sort of got their footing under them a little bit, they feel like. So we'll see. Tennessee's been good against the run, though. They were good against the run last year, with the exception of Anthony Richardson when he was out roaming around. I think he had 62 yards, 64 yards in the game last year. He was the leading rusher for Florida when he just started making a bunch of backyard plays, when Tennessee lost him in contain.
Plays that Mertz likely isn't going to make.
Probably not, AP.
Not going to make him like Anthony Richardson did, that's for sure.
We will end with about 4 or 5 here from Athrun. Okoye, all but gone with his announcements now before the official visit, correct?
In my opinion, yes.
Okay. New names after senior tape will start coming out next week, right? When should we start hearing some new names? I mean, I know it's just dependent on, it varies every year, but
yeah, I mean,
Cleveland Keith and all that was this time last year.
You normally see it mid to late September. And
when did Arian Carter pop up as
about this time?
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. How many kids do you think we can circle back around to in recruiting if the offense gets on track the way we think it can and should, and we start looking dominant again? Essentially, circle back around to some recruits who may be committed elsewhere or have lost some momentum with.
Yeah, I mean, they're still going to try to recruit Ryan Wingo. I mean, Kelsey went and saw him last week. They're going to swing back around to probably Amir. I mean, they've already swung back around to Amaris Williams and Cam Fountain. I could see him swinging back around to Kai Bates. We'll see. Again, a lot of the hay's in the barn, but, probably a few bells left out there.
Interesting with Ryan Wingo, the longer he goes, the less the NIL value thing comes into play. The NIL all comes into play from Missouri.
Yep.
He's going to be a midterm enrollee. So, the idea that he was going to get more money early by going to Missouri, the longer he goes, the less that becomes a factor. That's why Texas AP is that's the other school people are talking
about. If he's not pulling the trigger right now, then Texas has become probably the favorite.
And they obviously threw it really well. They've got young, they got a quarterback, and everybody feels like Texas is back. So I think the longer it goes, then Tennessee's chasing Texas and not chasing Missouri.
Yeah.
And the last one here from Athrun, it's not recruiting. Go back to the team. Do you think that Tennessee can continue to pressure the quarterbacks as well as it has so far moving into conference play? It's $1 million question, guys. Rob, I love the depth that they have. They're going to play 10 to 12 guys. I like Pierce. I like Barron so far. Omar Norman Lott's added a lot. Again, there's no pun intended. There's a lot of options up there, and I'm intrigued to see what they look like against an SEC offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to average 5.5 sacks a game in SEC play like they have in the first 2 weeks.
I think it'll be good.
Why not, Rob? Come on. I mean, make a bold
I think they're going to be able to get to the quarterback. I mean, again, I'm not 5-6 times a game like they have the first 2 weeks, but James Pierce, I think is a dude. I mean, Tyler Barron, if he stays healthy, looks like he's going to be productive. And they're better up the middle than they have been with Omari, with Norman Lott. I just they're not going to be the 85 Bears, but yeah, I think the pass rush is going to be pretty consistent this year.
14 DFLs in a game. Is that going to happen again this year?
Sure. They play Vandy. They play Kentucky. They got Connecticut coming up. It can happen.
So you've got them as the 2000 Ravens, not the 85 Bears.
Yeah, exactly, AP. That's right.
All right, guys. Appreciate you for sending in your questions every single week here for the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. A lot of recruiting questions, a lot of team questions. Tennessee at Florida. Austin Price, what a deal we have going on right now at Volquest.com.
That's right. I mean, we're 38 minutes in. If we go another 10, we go to the length of a full football game, 48 minutes.
And we can get Volquest half price.
Volquest half price, 50% off your first year of an annual subscription. Again, that's Volquest.com. Plus, still doing the $1 for 1 month, but you get some value. Half price for a year at Volquest.com. It's gonna end after this game, so go ahead and take advantage if you're listening right now on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and you're not a member with us yet. Now is the time to go ahead.
And Hubs guarantees a win if you sign up for the half price.
Yeah, that's in the super secret email, right, Rob?
I got to believe that to see that, Rob. That Hub said that.
Rob, all I've got to say is 39 and almost 40 minutes into this podcast, Rob Lewis. You just keep being you, buddy. You be you, Rob.
I just can't wait to see Hubbard's prediction Friday, AP. That's all. I can't wait.
You be you, Rob.
Is he gonna try to get out of it again, AP, and not give one?
Oh, he's predicting a Tennessee blowout. I know it.
He's going to predict the game one way or the other, or I'll go in and edit the score. And we're not going to say, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. I'll abstain.
Oh, you be you, Hubbard. Don't ever change. Exterior Home Solutions never changes. They are quality, for your home, roofing, siding, windows, quality work. UT fans, great people. Give them a call today for a free consultation, a free estimate, 865-524-5888, exteriorhomesolutions.com. Brent Hubbs, Rob Lewis, Austin Price, I'm Eric Kane. Appreciate you guys for being here on the Volquest Mailbag Podcast.